So as Claire mentioned, I'm Becky. I am co-founder and CEO of an organisation called Tech Returners, and we support people re-entering technology after a career break, and we're providing that by doing upskilling opportunities through technical and also personal development. Bit about my story. So my background is people, HR and talent. So I always say like 18 years I've been involved in it, but I never add in the year on that I'm getting older, and I've just hit a big milestone birthday this year. So I'm sure it's way over 18 years now, but I don't like to add those years on. So I've been involved in that sector for the past 18 or plus years, and involved in the tech industry for probably about 15, 16 of those years. So previous to Tech Returners, I was in a HR role, talent role, scaling high growth tech businesses through the value of people. So my last role before setting up Tech Returners, I was HR director for a leading SaaS-based organisation based in Greater Manchester. And I sat on a leadership team of 13, being the only female sat around that table. And 8 years ago, coming up to 8 years, as my little boy turns 8 in a few weeks, it was my whole first experience of returning to work after a career break, of that transition out and then back in. And at that moment in time, I probably didn't realise and probably underestimated a lot around that challenge. I thought, from society's perspective, I have to take 9 months off, have the maternity leave, come back, do the keeping in touch days, etc., etc. And I think it's when I transitioned back that it really did hit me in terms of the impact that it had on my life and my career. Everything that I used to attend used to be in the evenings, networking events in person, and just couldn't do that with having a little one. In terms of the industry moving so quickly, really impacted thinking I just didn't know this, and that massive feeling of imposter syndrome. And in terms of both really affecting my confidence. But people who know me, I'm very much a person that won't let it faze me. And I started to reach out to the network in Greater Manchester, and I met a lady called Arzu, and we had similar experiences. Her two children are actually very similar ages to mine. And we co-founded Women in Tech North. So Women in Tech North is a community meetup group. We've actually got an event this evening. You can find us on meetup.com. And it sort of, we wanted to set it up because we wanted just to share, very much like this group, a very open, honest community around sharing people's experiences. And we've grown over the 5 years. I'm pleased to say we're the third largest global women in tech network, which is absolutely amazing. And it was through the work that we were doing in the community, I started to have more and more conversations about my own journey of returning, and became more and more apparent that there wasn't any support there for women and men returning to work after a career break into the tech sector. So as time went on, myself and James, my co-founder, we worked at the organisation. He was head of development, I was HR director, and we said it was something that we both wanted to see where there was an opportunity. So we both actually went into consultancy, and as part of our consultancy time, dedicated just a day a week, and put on a free program to upskill people transitioning back into technology. Put a few social media posts out, and we were inundated by people that wanting to return. So we went through that upskilling, did 2 pilot projects, and just amazing results. Like Heather, who's one of our first Tech Returners, she's a front-end developer at Auto Trader. She's actually gone full circle and actually now one of our tech coaches and giving back, which is amazing. And the company's just gone from strength to strength. So our first ever client was the BBC, which was unbelievable. Me and James sat there going, we can't really have won this business against this global training organization. It's just me and you, how have we got that? Massive fears of imposter syndrome again there. And then in terms of work with Booking, Auto Trader, Vodafone, The Telegraph, Nando's, and overall, we've now enabled over 100 people back into technology after a career break. And over 80% of them are women, which is absolutely amazing. And it's not in terms of just providing those upskilling opportunities. We're changing people's lives, people that have actually wrote themselves off and said that I can't go back to that, you know, because I might have caring responsibilities, childcare responsibilities, but we've actually created those accessible routes for them to do so. So, you know, when we get those messages of saying, I can't believe this. You know, I've just got one lady wanting to speak to me just to thank me personally in terms of what we've set up. I always say we're an enabler. Without the people that, with the mindset, without the companies willing to obviously enable people to return, you know, that wouldn't happen. So it's a huge community that we're involved in, and we continue to grow. And then as part of that, I also run the Confidence Collective. So very much we can change the number in terms of talent pipeline, but I'm very much a believer if we don't have that diversity at leadership founder level, then we're not really going to change those numbers at all. So back in 2018, I launched a 4-month program developing tech female leaders to want to progress in terms of their careers, and we've now taken over 70 women through that 4-month program, focusing, in my opinion, real skills of leadership, talking about self-awareness, confidence, imposter syndrome, personal brand, and leadership, to enable them to go on to progress into their further on in their careers, do TED Talks, win awards, but most importantly, making them feel more confident in their own particular journeys. So yeah, it's been amazing to win the award. We're actually up for 2 more Women in IT awards tomorrow, which is unbelievable. I always said by the time you set yourself goals, don't you? By the time I reach 40, I would have liked to win an award, and I did do. And I lost my dad very suddenly last year, and I always said that it would be one thing that he would be so proud of me for. So that one was definitely for him. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I know I've gone on. I can go on and on and on about what we do, and because I'm so passionate about it. But I'm quite happy if anyone's got any questions or conversations around confidence or imposter syndrome, to share those. I'm quite willing to answer them.
Thanks, Beckie. There's a lot in there. You've done so much, haven't you?
Yeah.
I have a question first, and then we're going to open it up to the team. So have you noticed what happens to you? Like, do you recognize that it's a confidence thing or a belief thing or an imposter thing? Like, does it physically manifest itself, or is it in your head, or is it in your heart, or is it in your stomach? Like, what happens, and then you start to recognize what's going on now?
Yeah, it's a bit of a bigger picture for me. So when I went into my first transition into a leadership role many, many years ago, I read the books, I listened to the TED Talks, and, you know, read the white papers about how you needed to be, what you needed to be as a leader. And I felt myself being somebody I wasn't. And then I'm thinking, well, this isn't right. You know, it doesn't feel naturally comfortable to me. And I started to research it. And this is something that we touch upon in the program about really embracing your own natural strengths, and also being aware when we're under different personas. So us as humans, we have 3 different personas. We have our most natural persona, our everyday persona, and then we have our overextended when we're under pressure or stress. And it's identifying, like you said, about when you go into that sort of persona and how you can utilize your own natural strengths to help you. It's called Journey to Composure, to compose yourself and obviously perform at your best. And it sort of really helped me around imposter syndrome. And I sort of reframe it now. I know when I'm experiencing imposter syndrome, I'm moving myself into my growth zone. So I know if I'm doing something, it's because I'm developing myself and pushing myself to do more. And I think it's all about reframing it in your own mind, that you're never going to get rid of it. And I'm a great believer that everybody will have it and has had it. And they might not understand in terms of the word and the terminology, but once you start talking to people, go, actually, yeah, I have felt that, or, you know, I have thought about that in terms of my own career. And it's about managing it rather than, you're never going to eliminate it, but managing it. And I think about managing it in the right way. So in terms of, right, if you want to progress, you are going to feel imposter syndrome because you haven't done it before. And I actually listened to a podcast last week. Don't know anyone's ever listened to him, Steve Bartlett, who was the Social Chain founder, who's now obviously the first black male that's going on Dragon's Den, you know, fantastic story. And he was interviewing someone that talked about confidence, and is it really confidence or is it resilience? And he talked a lot about it being habit. So the more and more you do it, you know, obviously the more and more you're more prepared to turn your ideas into actions. And it really resonated with me because the more I do things and push myself into that comfort zone, they become more manageable. You know, don't get me wrong, still today, you know, coming onto this, I've still got those things of imposter syndrome when you're talking about being a tech founder, that sort of, oh, am I really? And then you sort of push yourself to do it. And then I know after this session, I'll have to really reflect and appreciate the journey I've been on to then go, yeah, I really enjoyed that. I want to do it again and do it again. So I do think it's something that, you know, to be aware of and be aware of how it sort of manifests itself, because what we talk about is what it can actually stop you doing. And that's the really challenging part, because people let it stop them doing, like, you know, speaking out, doing that piece of work, going for that promotion, asking for the pay rise. And that's when you've got to realize, is it actually stopping you progressing on where you want to get to? And that's when you need to understand what you can do to overcome that challenge.
Yeah, oh, I really agree with so much that you've said. You've reminded me of a very, very old book that I've probably mentioned in this forum before. You know, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. And do you know what? You don't even have to read the book. You just have to remember the title. And it's like you say, like, feel that fear and recognize it as a growth opportunity. Exactly. Reframe it as, I'm about to learn something new. And I mean, I would even say to clients that if you're not nervous, or if you're not feeling the fear, it's not big enough for you. You know, if you're feeling comfortable, you should not be doing whatever that thing is. You should be moving towards the scary thing, because that's where your growth opportunities are.
Definitely. If anyone ever says to you that they don't feel nervous doing a presentation, or they don't feel nervous about lying to you, I will generally say they're lying to you. They might have this persona, but also that, you know, everyone feels nerves, because that's natural. It's your body going into this motion of like adrenaline, but it's how you then use that to then, you know, in terms of your own presentation. So I drum it up, and then I go very much like almost performance mode, but I know after it, and I need to just take some time for myself and reflect on it as well. And in terms of also like presentations, just touching upon that, I always people say about, you know, how do you know what to say, you know, with the Confidence Collective. Part of it is in terms of obviously doing talking, panels, etc. And it's all about preparation, all about having a really good tool to help you prepare, you know, make sure you get that practice in early stages. I remember practicing in my first presentations, and I still do now, because I think it's really good for your own confidence to then feel more natural when you come on screen or in person, hopefully again one day.
practice, as I said, at least 90% prep. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to the floor. Who has a comment or question or statement they'd like to share? Barbara, I can see your hand.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Becky. That was amazing. Just when you were talking about the authenticity stuff there, it was bringing up something for me. So I make software, and sometimes I have to go into a meeting with a client, and I get the sense, rightly or wrongly, but I get the sense that they're wanting me to be someone I'm not, whether it be kind of a woman in her, you know, off in her place and saying the things women are supposed to say, or somebody more corporate. And I just wondered if you'd ever come across that thing, and well, what you do about it.
Yeah, great. That's a great question. I always remember when I talked about being a HR director. So, and, you know, surrounded by, you know, male and egos, I'll be totally honest in terms of that. And talking about HR, it's not, you know, the most attractive topic, you know, in companies, and people have this perception it's all about disciplinaries, payroll. Well, it's not. It's actually what makes organizations tick. If you don't have the right people and they're not engaged and motivated, you don't have a business. And I always struggled in meetings about putting my viewpoints across. And at one point, a bit like you said, Barbara, I thought I would have to go into these leadership meetings and talk about football or talk about golf. And, you know, I have no interest in doing so. And I realised, well, no, that's not me. You know, I don't want to start to go again on that journey of being somebody else. So I always very much like tackling in terms of those situations was staying true to myself, knowing and understanding the value that I provide, and also knowing in terms of, I'm sure you might have heard of it, circle of control and circle of influence. You can only control what you're saying and what you're doing. You can't control everyone else. And I'm very harsh with the returners on this, and it's a little bit of a different perspective. But if someone doesn't value you as a returner, well, you don't want to work with them. You don't want to work at that organisation. A very firm line, and I know it's difficult when you're setting up a business and you needed that engaging. But if it was like an investor or businesses, do you actually want your brand as you being associated with it? Because I know I've turned, you know, some conversation. I've just had actually one this morning with a very large organisation that were just not on the same page. And I've just had to say to them, you're just not understanding what we do and the value of what we do. So we just can't work together. And as hard as that is, especially when you're setting up longer term, you will reflect and be glad you chose that journey to go on. And so my advice, and I can only talk from my advice and my opinion, be true to yourself and be true to your own values. If you don't know your values, spend some time identifying those. And then, you know, in terms of the decisions you're making, are the right decisions for you now and also from your future.
Cheers. I am keeping an eye on time, but we have time for one or two more questions and comments. Who else would like? Natalie Jameson, do you want to say something?
Yes. Hi, Becky. I'm really surprised. We've never met. I've been following your work for a while. I've got a couple of questions, actually. One, have any of your returners ever worked in smaller sort of startup type, organizations? It would be really interesting to see, you know, if that's a route or whether they're looking for more kind of established businesses to go into. Talks about some of the big companies that you've worked with.
Variety, actually. One of our most recent hires, I'm sure you've all heard of Hiring Hub, recruitment tech platform. So obviously startup scale-up organisation, and they were looking for an agile project delivery manager, a lady called Rana. Amazing story. Had actually come into the UK, very extensive tech background, some amazing companies that she worked for, and now really resonated, again talking about values, her personal values to what they were looking for, and now she's secured a role there and absolutely flying, and providing really value, and they're really valuing her diversity. So yeah, they do very much, we talk about in terms of their own preference around their own individual around what they look for. Obviously with smaller organisations, I'm always clear in terms of, you know, these people are still returning, so they do need an element of support. But if you have that infrastructure and you have those people that want to support return, it doesn't really matter in terms of size of organisation. I really believe it's the culture and infrastructure you have in that business that can support a returner.
Yeah, okay, so maybe if the infrastructure isn't quite there yet, so somebody coming in that could almost be more of a formative influence in the business, as opposed to somebody who has that experience that can come in. And so I'm thinking about setting up departments now, and I'm looking at where do we get that talent from, and I'd love to be able to bring somebody who's done. I've had similar journey. I've had 2 kids, been that ping pong back and forth, and have walked that painful line, so I know what it is. I'd love to be able to give somebody that opportunity, but then I worry that maybe you know, the support structure in terms of their technical you know, experience, because it's been, you know,
I think it's more personal. Technical, that's fine. They have the technical having that sort of personal support that, you know, if they've been out of the environment for a period of time, just having somebody that, you know, there's end on it's the end of the Zoom call on Teams call now.
No, that's fine.
Technical skills, you know, it's like riding, isn't it? You've always got it. You just need refreshing. But from a vision point of view, it's in terms of supporting them, you know, the ups and downs of, you know, maybe having to leave children for the first time, which I'm sure.
Well, that would be fine. That would be absolutely fine. And then one other question was really from your point of view as a founder. I see you've got a few things going on, and something that I like to do as well. How do you juggle? How do you juggle them and the kids and everything else?
I'm going to be honest, very difficult. I'm not. I've got now. So Ethan's approaching 8, and Emmy's just turned 2. So yeah, it's a nightmare, I've got to say. Emmy's just started nursery 2 days a week, and she's been in a couple of weeks, and I got a phone call yesterday saying that there's been a case in the nursery crash, you know, and now I've got to do 10 days isolation, and I'm like, okay, I've got one-to-one routine, and I'm thinking how I'm going to juggle that. I'd be kind to myself, and it's took me a long time to sort of think about that I can't sometimes do it all, you know, and just to acknowledge that and be kind and go, right, okay, I sort of look at what I have achieved that day rather than going, oh God, I've not done this, I've not done that. You know, even the smallest thing where, you know, coming out and I make sure that I still pick Ethan up from school on the days I can, you know, him running out and giving me a massive hug and a massive kiss. Say, mummy, you know, recognizing the smaller things rather than thinking, oh, I haven't sent that email, that proposal and things like that, and just being kind to myself. Don't get me wrong, I am not there in the slightest, and I don't pretend to be any expert about how to juggle everything. I'm just trying to change my mind to reflect that, you know, you're not going to get it all right all the time. Celebrate those small wins, however small they are.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Oh, it's great. Oh, we'd love to catch up with you again.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 2 little kids, Beckie, and I really felt for people with little kids. I have 3 boys who are teenagers, and that's pretty horrific, especially in lockdown. But I have really felt for people with little kids, because my kids just don't get up now. They just stay in bed till, you know, like midday. And whereas the little kids are still up at 5 and 6 in the morning going, hi, I'm awake, I'm alive, feed me, entertain me.
Very much so, yeah. Lockdown was an experience I think I'll never forget.
Okay, so I'm watching time. Is there a very last comment if anybody wants to make one?
Alexa looks like she has one.
Yeah, Alexa did.
Yeah. I'm so sorry I missed the first part of the conversation, but I'm wondering how you deal with people that tell you that there's not enough female tech talent in the industry. Like, how do we get the word out? It's so frustrating. I was looking at investing at a startup, and I looked, they have absolutely no females in their team. And I asked the CEO why, and he said, well, we're all engineers. And your point is, so just how are we going to tackle that? I know it's like the same question we all have, but from your perspective, because that's what you're in.
Yeah. I disagree with the comment. We do have the female tech talent. We just don't provide, or some companies don't provide those accessible routes for them to come into the tech sector. I'll give you a really top level stat, because I know that I could go on for this for hours, but we did a project with the BBC. Yeah, BBC, massive name, so I understand in terms of their attraction to people being larger. They wanted to run a programme for 16 women returning to technology in London. They had to close down applications after 2 weeks because they had 83,000 women apply. Okay, so when people say there isn't enough women, there is. We just need to create accessible routes at varying different levels. So early stage careers, returners, you know, in terms of different routes, in terms of leadership as well. We just need to attract, retain, develop the talent throughout. There's a stat out there that talks about the percentage of women that drop out at that mid-level point. And it's fine if we're going to build a talent pipeline, but if we're not retaining them, they're just going to, it's like, I call it a leaky bucket effect, and we're just filling it up, and then we're dropping out. And that we need to fix it from all different elements to really make an impact. So when companies do come and have it many days in terms of, right, well, where can we find more talent? I'm like, well, there is talent there. What are you actually doing about it? Look inside your own organization, your own culture, to then look at in terms of, are you doing enough? Because there is women out there.
Well said, and I would agree wholeheartedly with you there, Becky. As a female engineer who dropped out of the corporate world, who ran away and set up my own business because I wanted the flexibility, and all the smart ones escape, is what I've also worked out. They all go off and find a different way of doing things. So yeah, I think people and organizations need to get more creative about how they find them. And
I'm hoping that I know the pandemic's been so tough on everyone for various different reasons, but I suppose reframing it again, I'm just hoping that it actually opens the eyes to employers that, you know, we can do remote working, we can do agile working, flexible working isn't a benefit, it should be the norm. And, you know, making it more accessible for women especially, you know, and men, you know, to do the school runs, to, you know, to do the pickups, to do the caring responsibilities. And I think it's going to be, hopefully, a monumental change in terms of that diversity as well within organisations.
Agreed. Oh, we could do this all day, but
sorry.
We have to stop. Becky, I know you're not able to join us for the whole session, so I want to take this opportunity to say thank you very, very much for coming along today and sharing your experience and your wisdom with us. We are delighted you're out there fighting the cause on behalf of women and tech returners, and there's plenty of work to do, but there's plenty of work has been done, and you're very well recognised in your awards, and it's very well deserved. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. And I'll pop my LinkedIn on. The thing, if everyone wants to connect, just ask me any questions afterwards, or just have a bit of advice. I'm quite willing to just have a chat with anybody who might be going through the same journey or a similar journey to me, because I think it's so important to recognise that and support each other.